from Wings, etc. in Cape Girardeau. And we'll be here until the stroke of 1 o'clock. And we certainly invite you, if you're taking your lunch hour, you're getting ready to take your lunch hour anytime in the near future, stop on by and join us. There are seats available. They've got their high-def TVs. If you didn't get all of the NFL playoffs that you wanted last weekend, yesterday and Saturday, you can certainly catch up on all of the highlights. We see a lot of highlight packages going on right now, some college and NBA hoops on some of the TVs. You can stop by Wings, etc. Good food, great times. And don't forget, their award-winning jumbo wings on Mondays are just 59 cents. And if you're not in the mood for wings, they have a full menu that features freshly made burgers. They have wraps, quesadillas, subs. If you want to go the salad route, they can certainly help you out there. The big chicken salad, one of my favorites. They have smoked ribs on the menu. Their appetizer lineup includes their ultimate nachos and their deep-fried pickle spears. You're invited to join us, Wings, etc. If you're not familiar with Wings, right in front of the mall, they share the parking lot with Steak and Shake. So stop on by and join us for lunch as we talk Redhawks basketball. Southeast getting set to play a couple of games at home. SIU Edwardsville will be in here on Thursday, and then a doubleheader coming up on Saturday with the Eastern Illinois Panthers. Redhawks head coach Rick Ray is here. I think I saw a weather forecast where we might see the sun sometime this week. I haven't seen it in a while.
Well, I know my boys, they like getting outside regardless of the weather, so they've been disappointed with all the wetness and things like that. So hopefully the sun will peek through here soon.
I'm glad we didn't get that ice, because when I saw the ice forecast, I immediately got on my weather app and started to see what's it going to be like in Martin, because I was thinking about that drive over. A lot of that's two-lane highway, and on an icy road driving over to Martin, Tennessee, it's normally about 2 hours. That could be a 3+ hour trip if it was icy, but we missed it.
Yeah, I tell you, it's always funny with the weather advisory when you're talking about school. I have 2 kids. One is 5 in kindergarten, one is 3. And so when you start getting those weather advisory updates, the kids, they start hoping it gets bad weather so they don't have to go to school. And the moms, they're hoping that the weather holds off so the boys can go to school. So you just got that dichotomy of 2 different thoughts going on there.
We got the same thing at our house. They just love to see the forecast. It says snow. Boy, I hope it's multiple inches so they get out of school. The bad thing, if you're a kid on Friday where the ice was supposed to come and they were canceling a bunch of things, our girls had an off day that day. They weren't going to be in school anyway. That's even worse. If you're a kid, you have a scheduled off day, and then they call off school.
Yeah, that's a double whammy right there for you.
All right, you're getting set to host a couple of teams. It'll be good to get back to the Show Me Center. We'll talk about the UT Martin game coming up, but 2-game homestand here, SIU Edwardsville Thursday, and then Eastern Illinois Saturday. Boy, you have played so well at the Show Me Center this year, 6-2, 2-0 in OVC play. What's been the big difference as far as you're concerned? A 3-10 record at home last year. Obviously, you got a lot of new faces on the roster, but completely different outcomes this year at the Show Me Center.
Well, I tell you, the number one thing that always helps is having good players. I don't think there's any coach that's been a successful coach that can't point to having good players on his team, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, what have you. So I think we've got quality individuals on our team. The second thing is our depth. We've been able to incur some injuries, some major injuries, where we're going to end up having 3 guys that we thought would contribute to our team and 2 guys we thought would be starters for our team that are going to be out for the season and have to medically redshirt, and we've been able to endure those injuries and still have somewhat of modicum success. So I think those are the 2 biggest things when it comes to mind. And then also just guys are being comfortable. And what we've kind of hit home on with our guys is, hey, you have to have a belief and you have to protect your home court. If you don't protect your home court, you don't have any chance of being successful in the OVC. And I thought that was the biggest thing to our downfall last year, that we didn't protect our home court.
Well, you've protected it so far this season with a 2-0 record and an opportunity maybe to build on that with the 2 games that you've got coming up. The UT Martin game, this is a short drive over to Martin, Tennessee. It's about a 2-hour drive. You go over there. First half, everything's going pretty well. You play them to a 1-point game at halftime. You've got a 1-point lead. What were your thoughts going into the halftime locker room?
Well, I thought First of all, UT Martin might be the most offensively talented team in the OVC. They got two dynamic scorers with Mobley and Butler that can really score the basketball. And the thing that makes them unique is they score 3-point shots and jump shots off of ball screen action and handoff action. Usually off of ball screen action and handoff action, you're worried about guys getting to the paint and making plays. But with their team, they tend to shoot threes off that handoff and ball screen action. So I thought our guys did a pretty good job of kind of controlling those two options there. But the other thing is, I thought we scored against their matchup zone. Their matchup zone presents a problem because it's really not a man and it's really not a zone. It's somewhere in between. So you got to have some man principles with every offense you run, but you also can't remain stagnant and just play it like a regular zone. So I thought our guys did a pretty good job. And the biggest thing I think we did was that they are a really good offensive rebounding team. They lead the OVC in offensive rebounding percentage. We lead the OVC in defensive rebounding percentage. And so I thought we did a really good job. They only had one offensive rebound in that first half.
You shoot 48% for the field in the first half, and one of the big differences, you hit 7 threes. They hit 5 threes because they did shoot it well in the first half, 56%, but the three-point shooting probably turned out to be the difference there in the first half.
Yeah, and you know, the one thing that we tried to make sure our guys understood, that we put up an equation there. I'm a math guy. Zone does not equal threes. So I think a lot of times when people play zone, they automatically think they need to hit a bunch of 3-point shots in order to beat them. And so we got to make sure that we stay in attack mode and try to get into the paint, especially post feed the ball in to Trey, because it's one-on-one there in the post and he has an opportunity to go make plays. So I thought we settled for some threes there early in the game, especially in the first half. But I thought we got out of that a little bit and started to like attack the paint more.
You only attempted 9 3-pointers in the second half, but you still made 4 of them.
Yeah, and I thought we shot a really good percentage, from the 3-point line. I think we shot maybe 45% from the 3-point line in the whole game. So I thought we did a good job of making selective 3-point attempts.
As far as Denzel Mahoney, we wanted to get the word out. He has been named the OVC Freshman of the Week for the first time. With all of the tremendous games that he has had this year, averaging double figures. He's one of the top free throw shooters in the Ohio Valley Conference. You'd have thought that he would have won this award before, but he is the Freshman of the Week, and well-deserved. He pumps in 23 points. That's a career high. And, boy, he is just becoming a reliable guy from the free throw line. He's up to 81%, 12 for 12 from the stripe.
Yeah, I tell you what, a really deserving moment there for Denzel Mahoney. I know the young man over at Eastern Kentucky, Gist, has really put up some big numbers throughout his time there. And so he's been getting that award a lot. And there's been some other guys that have some bigger games. But I think that Denzel has probably been the most consistent freshman in the OVC as far as like what he does for our team. Him playing that undersized 4 spot has really been the key to us being a better offensive team, because he becomes a matchup problem because he can shoot threes, he can take people off the bounce. And what I'm liking from him now is that he's being much more aggressive of attacking the paint. I thought sometimes he settled for 3-point shots or pull-up jump shots and he could have got to the rim. But I thought in this game he really did a great job of attacking the paint. Did an unbelievable job of getting some offensive rebounds there and keeping the ball alive and then getting to the free throw line. And once he gets there, he's knocking them down. So just really happy and proud for Denzel.
He finished with 6 rebounds, but 3 of them offensive rebounds. You had 9 in the game, and he was your leading offensive rebounder.
Yeah, and you talk about a guy who's supposed to be undersized, at that 6'4", 6'5" position playing the 4, and that didn't hurt him at all. But the thing that is amazing to me, everybody always wondered about our size. And so for us to be the #1 team in OVC in defensive rebounding percentage speaks well of our guys, like understanding what they need to do individually and what they need to do as a team in order for us to be a good rebounding team, because we're undersized.
And, those numbers as far as rebounds count 5 games without Trey Kellum. He didn't even play for 5 games.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, Changa did a good job in his stand, but we played small. We had Milos playing the 5 some. We had Antonius playing some of the 4 some. So everybody contributed and making sure we go get that defensive rebound.
All right, what were your thoughts as you transitioned into the second half of the game? And, boy, You can't shoot much better than UT Martin did. They shot 65.2% in the second half, 15 of 23 at one stretch. They made 8 straight shots, and most all 8 of those were right under the basket. They were really attacking the paint.
Yeah, if you look at UT Martin, the way they break down, 65% of their offense comes in transition or in secondary, which is an unbelievable number. That's like a North Carolina. North Carolina really gets out and pushes the basketball. So UT Martin wants to get out in transition and wants to attack. The thing that was really disappointing about the way they scored against us was they were just simple uncontested layups. You know, that's the thing that you don't want to give up. If someone ends up making a contested three, a contested jump shot, even a contested layup, you know, you can kind of deal with that. But we just had guys just breaking down defensively, which led to them getting uncontested layups. And they started running, we call it the Michigan action, where they split the guards. A guard can go downstream while the big has the ball. So one of those guys is going to kind of slip to the basket for a layup, and the other guy's going to come back and get that handoff action right there. So you really got to talk. And we just did a poor job with our communication as far as like who was staying low. Excuse me, who was staying low and who was staying high. And so in that confusion, we had guys breaking down, and it led to layups for them.
Well, it's got to be frustrating for you because they kept running it and running it and running it. And at some point, you're probably on the sideline. You're talking to your guys about it, and you're watching it happen.
Yeah, and we called a timeout. And once we called a timeout and diagrammed it for them and talked to them about the rules and the principles and things like that. But, you know, what we talk about to our guys is you can't go over every set that the other team is going to run. It's impossible. It just takes too much time. And guys don't have the focus and the aptitude to kind of go through all of those things. And so what you want to do is you want to have some principles that's embedded in them throughout the course of the season, that when something occurs, they know the principles of what they're supposed to do in order to combat that. And I just thought that, like, we went over some things about 6 sets that they run, and our guys did a really good job of guarding those 6 sets. When they went outside of those 6 sets, the playbook, then we didn't rely on our principles, and that's when our defense broke down. So, you know, what you want to do is you want to talk to our guys about fundamentals of defense and making sure that when something happens that we haven't particularly walked through, we still should know how to guard it and have some principles that's locked in to enable us to guard it defensively.
They've got one of the top sharpshooters in the league in Jacoby Mobley. He had a career-high 25 points in the game, and that's a guy you're pretty familiar with. He's from Starkville, Mississippi, so you knew all about him when you were down at Mississippi State.
Yeah, we had a young man on our team from Starkville, Gavin Ware, who is a really talented post player for us when I was at Mississippi State, and knew Jacoby well. And then the high school coach there is one of the better players to ever play at Mississippi State. So we knew all about Jacoby. Unfortunately, he had to go to junior college first. So we really didn't get into the thick of recruiting him. But we always knew that he was a really talented scorer, a guy that can shoot the basketball. And what he does is he puts so much pressure on your defense, because every single time he catches the basketball, whether it be good or bad, he's trying to score. And so what that does is, you've got to be locked in every single time he catches the basketball, because he can break your defense down.
Boy, and he took it to the basket a little bit more than I remember him from last year. I mean, it looked like he wants to hoist three-pointers, and he hoists a lot of them. But when the three-point shot wasn't there, he was attacking and hit all 4 of his free throws.
Yeah, and that's the thing we talked about. We wanted to make him bounce the basketball because he's a guy that wants to take the three-point shot. He can attack the basket, but that's not his preference. His preference is to put it on the, shoot three-point shots. So we wanted to make sure that we did a great job of making him bounce the basketball. But once he bounced the basketball, our help defense didn't rotate correctly.
You know, there are a couple of different types of guys who are successful from three-point range. One guy that needs to get the shot set up for him. Other guys can get their own shot and hunt their own shot. Mobley's a hunter. He can get a shot anywhere. And I thought he made some really tough threes in traffic. Guys were there. He's one of those guys that can hit a shot with a man in his face.
Yeah, we talked to those guys about, like, a contested three for him doesn't mean anything. He's still going to shoot the basketball. So you can sit there with your hand up all you want to. He's still going to shoot the basketball. That doesn't affect him. And part of, like, being a good three-point shooter and not being able to, like, have to have your three-point shot manufactured or with screens is just having that confidence. He doesn't have a conscience. He can miss like 10 threes in a row, and it really won't matter for him. He's still going to take that next three. So the thing about those guys is really admirable is they don't have a conscience. They're going to continue to shoot the ball.
The guy who had made the second most three-pointers in the league, Matthew Butler, you did a good job on him. He was 1 for 5 from three-point range, and he wasn't nearly as aggressive as Mobley was.
Yeah, he has a big body. He's a strong guy. So he can not only just shoot three-point shots, but he can break your defense down. I thought where he hurt us was his assist-to-turnover ratio. We didn't do a good enough job of affecting him. He was able to find guys easily because our size didn't bother him. So he was bigger than all of our guards that were guarding him at that point guard position, Jonathan Dalton, Jamal Calvin, and then Taj. And so he got into the paint, made plays. I think he had 6 assists and 0 turnovers.
0, right.
So we need to do a better job of like, hey, we did a great job of taking away the three-point shot away from him. But once he got into the paint, he really affected our defense.
Back to Mobley for a second there. He went to junior college. Then he ends up going to Chattanooga, but he never played for Chattanooga, and then went to UT Martin. So he kind of bounced around after Starkville.
Yeah, after he got out of junior college, like you said, he went to Chattanooga, but never played for them. And so then he ended up transferring to UT Martin, never played for him. So he just had to sit out a year of residency. And once he sits out that year of residency, then he's able to play again. So every young man has 5 years of eligibility to play for. So like you got that 5-year span. So, he's a senior for him right now, but he's set out there 1 year UT Martin for year residency.
And Butler was a transfer from Rhode Island, and another guy transferred from Rhode Island that came in and was an all-conference guy, Jarrell Rochelle, came to Eastern Kentucky and transferred out. So over the last couple of years, and this coach that they have now was an assistant under Heath Schroyer. They have really thrived with transfers. They've kind of made it a point to go out and get 3 or 4 guys every year.
Yeah, I know from talking to Heath, when you're talking about going to UT Martin, it's not the most attractive place for people to try to come to and recruit to. And so what you got to do is you got to find different avenues to go out and get good players. Well, one of the avenues that they discovered that worked well for them is the Division I transfers, 4-year transfers. And so getting those guys that are looking to go someplace where they can make an impact and be kind of the guy, they could go to UT Martin and experience that. So they've done a good job of hitting that transfer market and getting quality players into their institution.
Speaking of Heath Schroyer, just a very unusual career path for him. He gets a head coaching job at UT Martin, wins 20 games, goes to the postseason, and then jumps and becomes an assistant coach at North Carolina State. I'm sure it's a financial move, I don't know what other things behind the scene, but you don't see that happen very often. A guy gets a Division I head coaching job, a 20-win season, just fine with the administration, and then goes to become an assistant coach. You don't see that happen hardly ever.
Yeah, you're starting to see it more in football than you do in basketball. So Heath is kind of a pioneer for it in basketball, but you see it in football where you see some of these coordinators that are making so much money, at the FCS level, and then all of a sudden now they have an opportunity as a head coach to move and be a coordinator and almost like triple their salary, and still hopefully maybe go someplace 2 to 3 years down the line that may be a better head coaching opportunity. And so I can't speak personally for Heath about that, but I know financially he was really well compensated for that jump to going from UT Martin to NC State, and then maybe going to work for a guy like Mark Gottfried, who maybe has some juice with some of these search firms and athletic directors and things like that. If Heath goes there and does a quality job for him, maybe he can get something in what he feels is a little bit of a better job than UT Martin as a head coach 3 years down the line.
Yeah, you can see where that may materialize for him. But can you remember a guy that won 20 games as a head coach and immediately jumped to being assistant coach? I'm not sure I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, and I tell you what, the thing about it too is like most people get into this business to be a head coach. I really don't have any interest of having someone on my staff who doesn't have the the thrive to be a head coach. To me, that's what it's all about. So I would say for me, the financial compensation wouldn't override the fact of getting a chance to run your own program. So everybody is different. But I tell you this, there's a whole bunch of different paths to becoming a head coach.
Yeah, and good luck to him. I mean, he did a great job while he was at UT Martin, and maybe this is a stepping stone for him to get a little bit bigger job. All right, 17 points in the game for Kadar Edwards. Boy, that guy, he plays really hard. I mean, he's got a little attitude. He's got some confidence, but that is one of the harder playing players in the league, I think.
Yeah, I tell you this, and this may come off the wrong way, but he's a little crazy, and when the guys are a little crazy, like, he plays extremely hard. I would venture to say he's the hardest playing guy in the OVC. He's so active, and he just talks the whole game. Not a negative, but it's like energy thing, like a Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett is just like talking the whole game, and it gives him juice, and it gives him positivity, and it gets rest of his teammates going.
You like having guys like that?
Oh, yeah. To me, like, I'd much rather have a guy like that you got to dial down than a guy that you have to dial up. Because sometimes, like, the way those guys play and the way they talk is so infectious, because it's really hard to get guys to talk on the defensive end, and he does it all the time.
All right, as far as the offensive end for you, we mentioned the great game that Denzel Mahoney put together, and as the OVC Freshman of the Week, Antonius Cleveland, 5 of 10 shooting, hit both of his three-point shots. He finished with 16 points and 3 rebounds. He only missed 3 free throws in the game, and those came from Antonius. But it's interesting. Those are the only 2 guys that got to the free throw line in the game, Antonius and Denzel.
Yeah, now I think what happens is when you play against a zone, people get stagnant and they don't attack and try to get to the free throw line and try to get to the paint. The thing that we need to do is we need to get Antonius more shots. We need to find a way for him to be a little bit more aggressive and kind of hunt a little bit more in a game like that. But I think what's hard is when you're playing a matchup zone, there's people surrounding you all the time. So some of the freedom he has against a man-to-man to attack the rim and go make plays, he doesn't have that against a matchup zone. But we need to get him more attempts than 10. We got to figure that out the next time we play him.
I thought it was interesting. We've talked to Antonius several times. He was 5 feet 8 inches tall as a sophomore in high school. So he had a really big growth spurt. He said, boy, physically, his legs really hurt when he was doing his growing. It was a painful deal. But he used to talk about how good of a shooter he used to be when he was smaller, when he was a shorter guy. And then, the shooting skills didn't catch up as quickly as the growth spurt did. And I remember you saying, well, he said he was a good three-point shooter when he was younger in high school. I'd like to see a little bit of that. All of a sudden, Antonius Cleveland is the 6th best three-point shooter in the OVC, 44%. That's a part of his game that was really never a part of his game until this year.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's been a key for his high percentage is the fact that he's taking good shots. I thought a lot of times last year he took bad shots, and the one thing for him is he had to at times. So you don't want to put it all on Antonius that he was just taking bad shots. But for us, sometimes he was our only offense.
Right.
And so he had to take some bad shots in order for us to have a chance to win some of these games. But now I think he has a better surrounding cast that he doesn't have to take bad shots, especially from the three-point line. So what he's really done is he's really bought into the selective shooting, but also the fact that if he does that, he's going to shoot a much higher percentage.
How much of it also goes into the fact that if you're a defender, he can blow by you, and even if he gets a half a step, he can pull up and jump so high to take that shot. You really cannot over-defend him on the perimeter, and he's getting better looks now because guys have to back off, don't they?
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, what happened last year was that you could go out and pressure Antonius because, if he got by you, you knew that your teammates are going to be there for help because the guys around him really wasn't a threat. from the three-point line. Well, what's happened with him now is obviously Antonio's worked on his game. We got to give him a lot of credit. He spent some time in the gym, worked on his free throw shooting, worked on his pull-up jump shots, worked on his threes, and did some of the things necessary in order for him to be a better shooter. But also a key to what his success too is now you can't just like get up and crowd him the way you used to, because if you got beat defensively, you knew that, hey, I had help there. But now, like, you don't have that help that you used to have because you got guys around him that can make shots. Guys like Denzel Mahoney, Milos, Jamal has become a better shooter. Taj, we've got so many guys around him that can make shots now that you just can't get up and crowd him. So when he takes a three-point shot, it's almost like you want that to happen more so than him just blowing by you. But now he's starting to make you pay from the three-point line as well, too.
And speaking of Jamal Calvin, he is fourth in the league in three-point shooting percentage right now, 44%. So you got two guys right now that have enough made threes to qualify as far as the top 15 in the league, and they're both shooting 44%. That's really good.
Yeah, and they're two seniors for you, too. And those are your expectations going into that. You want your seniors to be your guys that understand the game of basketball and when to take shots, when not to take shots, when to push the basketball, when to slow things down. So if you're not getting that from your seniors, you really have no chance to be a good team.
So these two guys are excelling in the three-point shooting. And then you look over on the defensive side, Jamal Calvin, fourth in the league in steals. Antonius Cleveland, seventh in the league in steals, creating things on the defensive side too.
Yeah, now I'll tell you what, that's about like knowing when the play is coming, anticipating those things. It's like you're a senior now, and they play more basketball than anybody on our team besides Trey Kellum. And so they should be able to see all the things develop. And there's not too many plays that should be run that you don't know about. Some sort of screen-to-screen interaction, a handoff, a stagger screen. Those things you should be able to see develop on the court because you've seen so much basketball, and they're doing a good job of anticipating the next play.
Redhawks back at the Show Me Center for their next two games. They are 2-0 in home conference games. They're 6-2 at the Show Me Center this year, and they will host SIU Edwardsville on Thursday. And then as part of a doubleheader, Eastern Illinois comes in on Saturday. We've got much more with Coach Rick Ray. Let's take a timeout. We are at Wings Etc. in Cape Girardeau. Wings, good food, great times. We'll take a timeout and return on the SEMO ESPN Sports Radio Network.
About Wings Etc. See, Wings Etc. has those award-winning jumbo wings. They're popular for both dine-in and carry-out. Now, the word is getting out about Wings Etc.'s appetizer lineup. From the ultimate nachos to the deep-fried pickle spears, frankly, they're irresistible. Friends are sharing time together at Wings Etc. They've got dining rooms filled with HD TVs tuned to the best sports programming, including NFL Sunday Ticket. The people at the next table are talking about Wings Etc.'s daily half-pound lunch special, starting at just $6.49. Plus, Wings Etc. has food and drink specials throughout the week, including 59-cent wings every Monday. Plus, there's the kids menu, and Wings Etc. is family-friendly with video games in the dining room. And the whole community is excited about how Wings Etc. is locally owned and operated, and they're proud to support local athletes, their families, schools, and teams. I guess Wings Etc. is a really big deal around here.
Elvis Presley was one of the greatest performers the world has ever seen. That's why they call him the King. Isle Casino Cape Girardeau is proud to present A Night with the King, a show that truly captures the spirit of Elvis live in concert. Saturday, January 28th at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. You'll hear such classic Elvis hits as Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, Heartbreak Hotel, and so many more. Purchase tickets for just $15 at the gift shop or online at www.islecapegirardeau.com. Join the encore drawing at 10 p.m. for your chance to win $100. All fan club members receive one free entry, plus earn an additional 10 entries just for attending the show. Feel free to relive great memories. Experience A Night with the King, Saturday, January 28th at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. at Isle Casino, Cape Girardeau. Must be 21, subject to change or cancellation. Rules and promotions may vary. Complete rules and eligibility for promotion are available at Fan Club upon request. Not valid for persons on the Missouri Disassociated Persons List or excluded from Isle of Capri properties. Bet with your head not over. Gambling problem? Call 1-888-BETS-OFF or email freehelp@888betsoff.org.
And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
Under that dense fog advisory to start this Monday, we've got scattered thunderstorms also becoming more widespread into the afternoon as we get up to around 60. Thunderstorms continue into the early part of our Monday night. overnight low mid-40s to around 50. Early sun tomorrow, more clouds for the afternoon. We'll hit the low to mid-50s. Plenty of sunshine on the way for Wednesday. From the Weather Channel, I'm Jeff Eno.
You're up to date with the latest weather forecast breaking on the ESPN Radio Network. Have you downloaded the SEMO ESPN app?
Check it out.
Check it out now, free on the App Store or Google Play, and download today. Listen live to ESPN 92.9 FM or ESPN 1220 AM 24/7 in crystal clear audio. Watch the Redhawks Coaches Show live video webcast. Enter our contest. Get local weather and live radar. See what others are saying on our Facebook and Twitter feeds. Everybody's downloading the free SEMO ESPN app. The real question, are you? Find it on the App Store or Google Play today.
End of message.
Hear the Southeast Redhawks men's and women's basketball teams all season long on SEMO ESPN and Real Rock 99.3. Stream live at SEMOESPN.com and download the SEMO ESPN app to listen. Southeast Basketball brought to you by Moreland Pre-Owned Center on Seamers Drive in Cape. Southeast Health. When cost and quality matters, choose Southeast Health. Cape Girardeau Nature Center in Cape County Park North. And the Code family of dealerships in Cape and Anna, Illinois. Visit drivecode.com.
This is Mike Golick for the best in local sports talk and play-by-play. It's SEMO ESPN.
It's the Redhawks Coaches Show with Coach Rick Ray. We are at Wings, etc. in Cape Girardeau. Just a programming note, we'll be over in the Jackson location next week, so make plans to join us. We'll be at Jackson, Wings, etc. on Monday at 12 noon, and that will be coming off a little two-game homestand for the Redhawks, who will try to climb above the 500 mark in conference play. The Redhawks with an opportunity to play SIU Edwardsville Thursday and then Eastern Illinois on Saturday. Two teams that are scuffling around right now. I know you don't keep an eye on, well, is a team scuffling or not? You're just preparing for what you're going to see, trying to get your players prepared for a game like this, coming off what you would, I think it's safe to say, you would consider a clunker defensively against UT Martin. How much tape do you break down on a game like that, or do you move on pretty quickly?
Well, we'll spend an extensive amount of time individually on that tape. So I always have individual meetings with our guys every week. And so we have two meetings each week. One is just academics and socially. The second is just basketball. So in that basketball meeting, what I do is I go through and I clip things individually for guys. And sometimes we'll show some things to the team. And you got to be careful because, like, in this day and age, guys are pretty sensitive about being called out in front of other people. Right? And so you got to be careful that you don't embarrass them or shame them, even though you may not think it's embarrassing or shame. And it's like, I didn't do it. Like, I didn't let the guy get a layup. You did. So, I mean, and so you got to be careful about that. But what we do is we have those individual meetings, and I show those guys those things. And so we'll talk about a lot of those defensive lapses and defensive breakdowns individually in meeting. But there's some things that have to be addressed as a team so other guys can learn from it as well, too. So what we'll do is we'll look at a lot of those defensive breakdowns. We won't work up about our offense much because UT Martin is such a unique team defensively that we won't play another team like that plays a matchup zone. So we'll show very little from the offensive standpoint. But from a defensive standpoint, we'll show some team things, but individually in those meetings where we'll point out a lot of the lapses that we had.
Is that about as frustrated as you've been watching your team perform on defense Saturday night?
Well, I think the Missouri State game, our first game, was a little bit that, and not just more so because we had defensive lapses, because I just thought that they kind of out-toughed us. I thought the UT Martin thing was more of a mental thing, where we had some assignments that we needed to cover and we just didn't cover them. I thought against Missouri State, we knew what we were supposed to do, but they just out-toughed us, to some balls and to loose balls and like defensive rebounding position and things like that. So I was a little bit more frustrated with that because I just that identity, you never want to walk away from that identity that you got out-toughed.
Well, when you challenge them against Missouri State, for you, doesn't happen a lot in non-conference play. You get another crack at them right away, and you guys were much better on the defensive end the second time around. you're going to get UT Martin again. They got to come to your place. So, you have an opportunity kind of similarly to Missouri State where you get another shot at these guys.
Yeah, and it's something, what you'll have is you'll have tape from that game. And so that's the biggest way our guys can learn is watch themselves. Sometimes you show tape and it's against different opponents and guys really are not locked into it as much as they should be. But when you go back and you show them tape of themselves about their breakdowns or things they could have done offensively, they tend to pay a little bit more attention to it.
And when you're talking about breaking down video, there are tools now that make it a lot easier for coaches. But you've got coaches that do that stuff, right? Is Tom Berriman the guy who is in charge of all of that? You say, okay, I want a highlight package of Denzel Mahoney defensively. I want every defensive play from Denzel in the Saturday game with Martin, and then you can kind of pick and choose what you show them. Is that right?
Yeah, if there's one thing that's changed the most in my coaching tenure, it's the advent of technology. We used to, when I first started, we were making edit tapes deck to deck VCR.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember being up at 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to get an edit done. And you're almost through to the edit and you screw up one thing and you have to start all over again because there was no technology for you to go back and get it done. So, Tom Berriman is our director of basketball operations and he's also our video coordinator. And so each assistant is in charge of particular teams that they have scout. And so Tom will help those guys get prepared for those games. And he does an unbelievable job with the technology side of it. When you're hiring for that position, you got to hire somebody that knows the things that you want for travel, the things you want as far as practice times, the things you need to handle academically. And he's also got to be your video coordinator. So he wears a lot of hats and does an unbelievable job at all of them. The biggest thing that'll help you, when I worked for Coach Wallman, he says hey, when you ever become a head coach, the most important thing is hire somebody, smart people. He says, I don't care if you can be an elitist all you want to, but smart people have a much better chance of succeeding in anything. And so, he is a smart young man, and he's really done a good job for our program.
Back in the day, way back in the day, there used to be the video exchanges where you'd get in a vehicle with the tape and drive and meet somebody at a midway point and exchange the game film, right?
Yeah, I've done that too. And when I was at Nebraska Omaha, that was when they still had live scouting. And so you would get in your car and you drive and you watch that opponent play, live. And you did a live scouting, but then they got rid of that when I got my first year Division I at Indiana State. So our travel partner at that point in time was the University of Northern Colorado. So I would have to fly all the time to Denver because we played just like we did here. We played Thursday, Saturday.
They're in Greeley, Colorado.
Greeley, Colorado. So I'd fly to Denver all the time and watch a team that we were going to play on Saturday, play on Thursday, and then fly back and give that scouting report. And I did that the whole time as a GA. That was my job, fly to Greeley, Colorado, and get the scouting report, live scout, and then come back and report it to the other coaches.
Why did they do away with a live scout? And do you think you can get just as much watching video as you could if you were there live scouting?
Yeah, I think with the technology now, the live scouting, it's not necessary. I think the biggest reason they got away from live scouting was the fact that it was taking away an assistant coach being there around your guys.
Okay.
So, I think that was the biggest complaint from head coaches is, hey, my assistants are gone all the time doing live scouting, which is really important, but we also need to be around our guys. We need to be able to know what's going on with them academically, socially, most importantly, getting on the court with them as well, too. So I think that, and then also the expenses involved with doing live scouting. Now, like at a Duke or North Carolina, the expense part of it doesn't matter. But for Nebraska, Omaha, it plays a huge part in it. So I think those are the two biggest reasons they got rid of it. As far as being able to see some of the things that you see on tape and live, the biggest difference between those two is you can sit there and look at the other team's bench and get calls. So if they're saying this is 4 up or this is thumbs up or this is thumbs down, you see it. You don't see that on tape because they don't focus in on the bench where you're there live scouting. You can see all the calls, and now you know the calls for particular plays and defenses.
With the popularity now of social media, guys have Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. I mean, there are all sorts of platforms for social media. Do you have a social media discussion with your team prior to the season? Is that something you keep a close eye on? Because sometimes, we nationally, we haven't heard anything, at Southeast, but nationally we see, coaches, assistant coaches, athletes kind of might get into a little bit of controversy when it involves social media. What's your outlook on social media? How do you approach it?
Yeah, the first thing I tell our guys is that it's not my intention, or nor do I want to like take away their social media privileges. What we want them to do is we want them to leave here responsible human beings. And so to me, if they're responsible human beings, that means they can manage their own social media accounts. But what we do is we monitor those things and make sure to see what some of the things they're putting up. But I think before you do any of that, you have to have a discussion about, what do you expect? What's your expectations from their social media? Number one thing we talk about, we have 5 rules, and we try to keep everything short and simple. But one of our rules is don't do anything to embarrass yourself, your family, the basketball program, or the university. And so putting up something on social media that's inappropriate can do that, okay? Then we also talk about some of the things that we don't want them putting up. Anything as far as reference to alcohol, anything as far as disparaging of their teammates, anything as far as derogatory comments about women or anything like that at all, we just stay away from. But you also say is, we tell them that, hey, if your grandmother saw this post, would she approve? And that's the thing we always talk about. It's really simple. If your grandmother saw this post, would she be disappointed in you? Would she approve? And that's the one thing we always talk about before you put something up is those 2 things. Is remember our 2 rules. That one rule about don't do anything to embarrass yourself, the family, your basketball program, and the university, and would your grandmother approve of what you just put up?
And you're on Twitter. And what's your Twitter handle?
It's at Rick Ray 1, the number 1. And so I try to be on it. It's hard because you don't want to put up anything that could be a lightning rod for anybody, but you also want to keep people informed about the program too. So we use it as a platform to do some things to promote some of our guys and some of the things going on as far as our basketball games, and also some of the things that we think is important about quotations and things that we use. So it's a platform, and it's something that I do myself. I don't ever want somebody to say well, he did that because I know a lot of head coaches, they have somebody that run kind of their social media deal. I'm in charge of my own social media. I think I should be able to handle that.
Yeah, I doubt Coach K is tweeting out his own stuff.
Yeah, I seriously doubt it.
And that is kind of a hot topic button today after the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers, where all-pro wide receiver Antonio Brown was live Facebooking the post-game conversation with their head coach. And apparently there was some bulletin board material for the Patriots there, and immediately it got taken down. But, it's been archived by Deadspin and certain things. Those are the types of things that you don't want bulletin board material for an opponent or anything like that. And that's a big topic of conversation right now. Something from live inside the locker room, which is kind of a sacrosanct.
Yeah, we always talk about what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. It's like Vegas. Yeah. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So when we talk to our guys about things that happen in the locker room, it's for the team and for the team only. You don't need to go back and tell your girlfriend about what happened in the locker room. You don't need to tell your mom about what happened in the locker room. That's the privileges for just the locker room. But, that's unfortunate because, Antonio Brown is arguably the best wide receiver there is in the NFL. And I'm sure, the one thing I will say, though, is I'm pretty sure that the Patriots don't need any sort of bulletin board material. I think Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are going to prepare to try to beat the Steelers without any sort of motivation at all than just winning. So, that was a heartbreaker there. As a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I was going to ask you about it. Yeah. It was a heartbreaker there. I mean, obviously they should have did some things throughout the course of the game, to help them. They needed to score. They needed to score, but they did a great job defensively of holding them to field goals instead of letting them get into the end zone. But that holding penalty at the end there, that really hurt. And the only thing I can harken back to too is just like that one play when we had Justin Houston single coverage 1-on-1 versus Antonio Brown. We did the blitz. So like I just like, hey, let's blitz Justin Houston and let's get somebody in the secondary to guard maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL.
And a linebacker on him.
Exactly.
You know, ever want a linebacker on Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
And then, if you're a Chiefs fan, just for a fleeting moment, you thought you had tied the game with the 2-point conversion there with about 2:43 to go.
Oh, that was just going from a joyous celebration to the biggest dejection that you can have there. I mean, Eric Fisher's a former #1 overall pick. You just like, hey man, like let's figure it out. But I guess Travis Kelce didn't react very well to that call after the game. So. But he's a different bird anyway.
Yeah, well, he had himself a 15-yard penalty and a big drop in the football game. But I'm sure he'll be writing a check to the NFL after that. They don't take kindly to public criticizing of any of their officials.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things definitive in life. I'm definitive that Travis Kelce will receive a huge fine for those comments.
So you got SIU Edwardsville coming in here on Thursday, Coach. This is a team that is nowhere close to what you saw offensively from UT Martin. UT Martin is a better offensive team than the team that you're playing on Thursday. SIU Edwardsville, only Eastern Kentucky scores fewer points. They are last in the league in field goal percentage, next to last in 3-point field goal percentage. So it has been a struggle for them to shoot the basketball. But what they have done very well is find a way to get themselves to the free throw line, Coach. They lead the league in free throws attempted. They're attempting 28 free throws per game. Unfortunately for them, they are dead last in free throw shooting percentage. So they get there a lot. They're not hitting a lot. But that is a team that could get another squad in foul trouble.
Yeah, I tell you the thing that's scary about them, and I know John, he was an assistant for one of my best friends, Conzo Martin, at Cal and also at Tennessee. But his background is a hard, tough-nosed, grinded-out guy. He was an undersized post at Marquette, playing for Tom Crean. But I think the thing that scares me the most about them is their ability to get to the free throw line. And for us, that affects our depth, especially on the front line, because they do a lot of ball screen actions, a lot of post entries. And so you're putting stress on your post guys every single time because they're the ones obviously defending in the post, and they're the ones hedging and helping on ball screen action. So we got to make sure that we do a great job of guarding without fouling. That's one of our goals that we have every single game is we want to make more free throws than the other team attempts. Well, against this team right here, that's going to be a hard thing to accomplish if we foul them all the time, which they've done a great job getting to the free throw line.
Their #1 player is Barak Eslik. He is from Turkey and is a terrific 3-point shooter, although his 3-point numbers are down a little bit this year, but he has hit 68 threes in his 2 seasons at SIU Edwardsville. The mistake would be to think that he's a guy that just hangs out on the perimeter. This is one of those drive and flail type players where he just barrels his way into the free throw line or into the lane to try and get contact and get to the line. He shot 105 free throws, and he's 10th in the league in free throw shooting percentage. So he scores in a variety of ways, not just the guy that hangs out on the arc.
Well, he's got that European, acting to him, getting into the lane and acting like he just got hit by a truck sometimes. But, the other part of him that's really difficult is he's kind of got that Manu Ginobili driving where he's going off of 1 foot hard and then he Euro steps and things like that. So for those guys, it's kind of an all or nothing. He has a high turnover percentage because like once he gets into the paint, you're either going to foul him or he's going to get fouled. He's going to foul him or he's going to turn the ball over. So that happens with him a lot. So he's a difficult matchup. And like you said, he's not just a 3-point shooter. He's a guy that is prolific from the 3-point line, but he's also a hard charging driving guy too.
And he's a guy when he's hitting. He had a game last year against Morehead State where he hit 7 threes, scored 40 points against Morehead State. I mean, that's what he's capable of doing when he's on.
Yeah, and there's no question about it. The thing that also about him that's kind of difficult is like he's really crafty. He understands like all the angles of basketball. So he knows how to attack your bottom foot. He knows how to attack your top foot. He knows when to hesitation dribble to try to get you to come up into him. Then he drops the shoulder into you. I mean, he's just a really crafty, smart basketball player.
And they've got a transfer from Kansas State, a really good athlete. His name is Trey Harris. He's an Edwardsville guy. They have another guy from Edwardsville that left and transferred back, Josh White from South Dakota State. So they got a couple of Edwardsville guys that are bounce-back guys transferring. But Trey Harris certainly lives up to his name. He's made 34 three-pointers, but you're talking about a Big 12 athlete here in Trey Harris.
Yeah, and that's actually John's nephew. And he's a good player. I mean, he set out a year and sitting out that year, he got even bigger and stronger than he was when he was over at Kansas State. So they've got two guards that are going to present a problem for us physically.
6'4" and 6'5".
Exactly. Guys that are like we struggle with because, probably Daniel can match up with him physically. Antonius can match up with him physically. Maybe Jalen. But guys like especially Taj will have a hard problem with him. Jamal Calvin will have difficulties with him. Jonathan Dalton will have difficulties with him. So we've got to make sure that our help defense is really good in there, because if those guys start bullying some of our smaller guards, we've got to be there for help.
Boy, and then they've got some guys, Coach, that can protect the rim just a little bit, namely Keenan Simmons, second in the league in blocks, seventh in rebounding. He's not scoring a lot, but a guy that can protect the rim and rebounds very well, Keenan Simmons.
Yeah, they're a good defensive team. They're a physical team, and they're hard to score against at the rim, because not only do they have good on-ball defenders, they have guys who come from the weak side and block your shot.
The numbers that they put up with three-point defense are really astounding. Teams are shooting 31% from three against them. They're nationally ranked in three-point defense. And let's face it, three-pointers have been one of the strengths of this year's team for your offense.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what they do against us when our ball screen action with Denzel Mahoney. Most people have been switching that because they're so scared of like what can happen with Denzel popping and making plays. And so it kind of opens up some things for our guards. But they don't have a traditional most teams now have like a skilled forward. They don't have a skilled forward. They have more of your prototypical power forward. So it'd be interesting to see if they want to put those guys on some of our smaller guards like Jamal Calvin and guys like that, then it can take advantage of those guys guarding him. So it'll be seen, because to me, that's going to be the key to the game offensively, is like what happens with that ball screen defense for them between Denzel Mahoney.
And then they've got a freshman point guard named Christian Ellis. He has not made a three-pointer this year, but he has 93 free throw attempts. So a point guard that is not going to hurt you from downtown.
Yeah, and some of those guys, though, like he actually knows what he is. Sometimes you'll have a young man like that who can't shoot but continues to shoot, and it's like, well, I'm open. Well, you're open, for a reason. So this is a young man who's really bought into his role and knows who he is. So I'd much rather, to be honest with you, play a guy that really can't shoot it but is willing to shoot it. And this young man at least knows his role.
Redhawks and the Cougars of SIU Edwardsville will be Thursday night. We'll take one final time out here, back to wrap it up with Redhawks head coach Rick Ray. We are at Wings Etc. in Cape. This is SEMO ESPN.
Wings Etc. See, Wings Etc. has those award-winning jumbo wings. They're popular for both dine-in and carry-out. Now the word is getting out about Wings Etc.'s appetizer lineup. From the ultimate nachos to the deep-fried pickle spears, frankly, they're irresistible. Friends are sharing time together at Wings Etc. They've got dining rooms filled with HD TVs tuned to the best sports programming, including NFL Sunday Ticket. The people at the next table are talking about Wings Etc.'s daily half-pound lunch special, starting at just $6.49. Plus, Wings Etc. has food and drink specials throughout the week, including 59-cent wings every Monday. Plus, there's the kids menu, and Wings Etc. is family-friendly with video games in the dining room. And the whole community is excited about how Wings Etc. is locally owned and operated, and they're proud to support local athletes, their families, schools, and teams. I guess Wings Etc. is a really big deal around here.
And now, your ESPN Radio Network local weather forecast.
Under that dense fog advisory to start this Monday, we've got scattered thunderstorms also becoming more widespread into the afternoon as we get up to around 60. Thunderstorms continue into the early part of our Monday night. Overnight low mid-40s to around 50. Early sun tomorrow, more clouds for the afternoon. We'll hit the low to mid-50s. Plenty of sunshine on the way for Wednesday. From the Weather Channel, I'm Jeff Eno.
You're up to date with the latest weather forecast right here on the ESPN Radio Network.
Well, dude, obviously you'd be better as the focal point of the show. Would I be better for society? No.
Don't miss Russillo and Canelo every weekday at noon on SEMO ESPN.
Final segment here with the Redhawks Coaches Show. We are at Wings Etc. in Cape Girardeau, where they've got their daily half-pound lunch specials, and those start at just $6.49. They have food and drink specials throughout the week, including Mondays. If you're thinking about stopping by Wings, the wings today are just 59 cents, and they have a terrific kids menu. They are open 7 days a week and late on the weekends because the games run late. Make plans. Watch the AFC and NFC championship games in high definition right here at Wings Etc. And again, we will be in the Jackson location next week. So SIU Edwardsville comes to the Show Me Center on Thursday night. Then it's a doubleheader with Eastern Illinois on Saturday. And, Coach, you're always, preparing for one team, so I know you haven't looked ahead to Eastern Illinois. But one thing that you always know with Jay Spoonhour, they're going to be very solid on the defensive end of the floor. And right now they are second in the league in scoring defense, second in the league in field goal percent defense. That is what we've come to expect from Eastern under Jay Spoonhour.
Well, I tell you what, Jay, being around his father for all those years, Charlie, and everybody knows he was an unbelievable defensive coach. Did a great job teaching the principles of defense. And so that is kind of transferred down to Jay. And, they're really sound. They don't do one thing particularly well. It's not like they have tremendous length at the rim or they've got the guards. But just like as a team put together, like team defense, they just do a good job of being solid and being fundamental.
How much do you talk to your team about the urgency of protecting home court? If you protect your home court during this homestand, all of a sudden you're 4-0 at home in conference play, and then you're over the 500 mark in conference play. How much of a sense of urgency do you kind of pass on to your guys?
Well, we talk about it a lot. It's so important to protect that home court to give yourself a chance to get yourself a good seed or to get into the OVC tournament. If you don't protect your home court, you have zero chance of doing either of those two things. So it's something we emphasize.
All right. It'll be SIU Edwardsville and Eastern Illinois. Should be fun. Hopefully we'll have a really nice turnout, and the weather is supposed to be cooperative as well. Coach, we will see you Thursday night at the Show Me Center. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Eric.
That is Coach Rick Ray, and that'll do it here from Wings Etc. We've got Russillo and Cannell coming up next on ESPN Radio, and we will talk to you from the Show Me Center Thursday night for Red Hawk men's basketball. The Red Hawk women will be playing at SIU Edwardsville on Wednesday, and you can hear that game on SEMO ESPN 1220. So long, everybody, from Wings Etc. in Cape.
This is Southeast Missouri's ESPN Radio Sports Network. 92.9 KLSC Malden, 1220 KGIR Cape Girardeau, and 1470 KMAL Malden.
Which is really what they're up to, nothing.
Yeah.
Would you go, man, Clemson's done. But 14. So when you're down the way Dallas is to Green Bay, you're really down, what, 4-1, 4-2, 4-1.5?
It's a really good way to look at it. I've never heard anybody say that before.
I'm afraid to say it because I've thought about it for so long, and I go, well, I can't. Like, if no one else has said this.
Because it sounds way more manageable if you're losing. I'm surprised I never heard a coach come in.
That's what I would do at halftime.
Absolutely. If you're down, whatever the score is.
28-14, you think you're getting killed? Are you?
Right.
4-2.
Or you could go 2-1. No, you'd have to use 4-2. Couldn't use that.
Why was I so scared to say this for such a long time?
I don't know, because coaches are all about mind tricks and tricking you into thinking you can come back. But the way it does make a tremendous amount of sense.
Because when Dallas is coming back, and granted that's 18, so it's a little bit more than
when it was
4-2.
21-3, you're thinking this is a